Good morning. Happy April, everybody. It doesn't feel like April everywhere, but I would like to welcome you to Earth and Sky. Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us online as well. If you like our videos, please hit the like button. If you want to subscribe to us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. And we always love it when you share our videos out. It helps us grow. If you like the message, please share it out, whether it's on your own page or to somebody else that you think might benefit from the message. This year we've been talking a lot about the moons and all of the different moon phases. There are 8 phases of the moon, just like there are 8 holidays within the year. And the moon phases actually follow along and really resemble, in a way, the holidays of the year too. So it's always nice when you can draw different correlations and then see how you can pull those correlations into your life. So in this video, I'll be describing a little bit about what the last quarter moon is, what that means to your life, and what you can do to enhance your life specifically during this phase. Today, April 4th, is the day of the last quarter moon, so we're right on track with, or actually April 8th, sorry, is the day of the last quarter moon. So we are right on track with these strong last quarter moon energies. So when you see the moon in her fullness, it's as though she's this big, beautiful, pregnant, ready to just birth out and manifest whatever your heart desires, whatever you've been working on manifesting. She's full, she's brimming with inspiration, she's brimming with creativity. When you harness that activity, then you can really focus that into your life. If you're not harnessing that activity, you might be one of those people that at the full moon is acting a little crazy and like you have a whole lot of extra energy and you're not quite sure what to do with it. The full moon ramps up a lot of that activity because it's ready to birth it out into a physical manifest form. And then we move through the moon phases and she starts to wane down a little bit. So just as a woman who has been pregnant starts to then release all of that extra that's been inside her and opening and releasing, letting go. And so this is a time to start letting go, starting to release, starting to wind down, coming back into yourself. It's a time to go internal. It's when somebody is pregnant and has a baby, they tend to go very internal after the baby is born. They tend to stay inside a lot. They curl up with the baby. So this is that time right after the full moon where you're curling up with your ideas. You're recognizing that you've manifested something. You've brought it forth, whether it's a project or an inspiration or something physical, tangible, whatever it is. That's the time to start going inward. And then you start having that moon phase go down a little bit more. And then it's time to go inward even more. And so you go from that releasing phase, the releasing where you're going from the full into that last quarter, you're releasing a lot. It's the time to let go. What do you want to clear out so you can create space for the next cycle? And then when you move from the last quarter, which is what we're mainly going to talk about in a moment, but when you move from the last quarter to towards the new moon, then you get that waning crescent where you just have that sliver of light, about 20% in the sky. And so when you start seeing that waning crescent in there, that's the time to really go into your shadow self and the unconscious and discovering what lies beneath. For those who see the moon as a goddess, you see her in her maiden form and then in her mother form, and then the crone form is that waning phase. That's where you start to see some of the cracks in certain things. You start to see below the surface. And so as you reach deeper and deeper into that waning phase, it's a wonderful time to look really deep within yourself, deep into your unconscious, deep into your shadow self, meaning the parts of yourself that you might not normally want to look at. The shadow self, if you feel like you have a hard time seeing beneath the surface into your shadow self, often you can figure out those traits by looking at people around you in your life, those people that drive you crazy with certain things that you really don't like about them. Those might be things, those traits might be hidden traits within yourself that you're rejecting. So see if those are aspects that maybe you're not noticing that you do within your own life, and then work on those traits. See what you can do to uncover them so that you can heal them, so that you can be the best person that you want to be. So that's that waning phase. So we're going from releasing, we're right in the middle right now, between releasing and reaching the unconscious. It also follows along with planting. So just as we've talked about with the wheel of the year, you have the whole planting cycle, the farming cycle. So you have the time where you're planting the new seeds, and then where they start to sprout just a little, and then they come out in their fullness, and then it's time to harvest, and then you're tilling the soil and you're letting it cover back over because it's winter time. Actually, you harvest and then you allow winter to come, and then you start tilling the soil too so that you can be ready for the next season. Well, this is the time of the moon phase where you're tilling the soil. You're turning it up. You've harvested at the new moon, and now it's time to turn all of that over and see what you're you're preparing yourself for what you want to manifest next time. You always have to clear up some space in the middle, but this is the time you're prepping the soil. So you've been clearing a little bit, you've been releasing, you've been grateful for what you manifested, and now it's time to release and let go. We definitely have those releasing energies really big right now with the last quarter moon, but we're also moving into that. It's time to dig up and go beneath the surface, pull up the soil, pull up the roots of things, and figure out how you want to turn things over so you can create space. So when you plant those seeds at the new moon, then the soil is really good within your life, so that you have not only created space, but you've also prepared yourself, you've healed yourself, you've looked beneath the surface at what needs to be healed and healed those things, so that when you plant seeds, you're planting it in a good space. You're planting those seeds in a way so that that can sprout up and be fertile and really have the nutrients that it needs. So when you're ready to plant seeds at the new moon, you've fertilized it in a way. You've really created the space, and you've tilled the soil, you've looked beneath the surface, and then you're ready to create what's new. And even though each of these phases, it's really a fast cycle when you think about it. The moon passing in 28 days, where we see the full cycle of going behind the shadow of the earth and then seeing the sun illuminate her face completely. It feels fast when you start to realize there's 14 days where she's waxing and 14 days where she's waning, and you break it up into 8 different cycles, and so it becomes a really quick cycle. So you don't have to cycle through all of these things every single month. You don't have to come up with a new idea that you're going to unearth and then plant the seeds and create it and birth it and release it and go to the next thing really fast. You don't have to do that. But if you're trying to work on something, if you really focus on it during the time of the moon where it aptly works with that, it can be very, very helpful. It really is beneficial. This is a time for healing relationships. This is a time for healing addictions. This is a time for looking beneath the surface. Both of those things usually have some releasing aspects in them. If you're healing a relationship, then there's certain aspects that you're probably releasing, whether it's animosities or anxieties or whatever you're healing within the relationship, there's certain things that you're releasing, and you're also getting ready to heal and to prepare the surface to bring in the new aspects that will bring in more love, bring in more joy, all of those things that help heal and bring in the new. Same thing with addictions, with whatever type of addiction you're dealing with. If you have an addiction, then there's a lot that needs to be released to detoxify your body, detoxify your mind, clear yourself, figure out what you need to release, and then start tilling that soil so that you can learn to love yourself again, so you can know that you fulfill yourself, that you don't need anything from the outside to fulfill yourself. And a lot of that is tilling up that soil that comes right in this last quarter moon where we're between both of those phases. Anytime you're healing something that's beneath the surface, both of those issues have a lot that lies within the unconscious. Both of those have a lot that lie within the shadow self. Figuring out what aspects you should look at, because it's as though you see the sun illuminating the moon during the phases where it's waxing, and so you see all of this building, the beautiful light that's building, it's shining its light on focusing on things as it brings them to you, and then the light seems to draw away, and the shadow begins to cover the surface, and the light diminishes, and then it's about halfway there, and then we're in that last quarter phase. And so as that's waning, it's asking you to turn inward. Just as we do in the winter, turn inward. Look in at yourself. Be okay with sitting with just yourself. Be okay with sitting in silence. All of these things really come into play with this. So what things would be really good to do? So how do you look into your unconscious? How do you look into your shadow self? How do you find ways to clear and release and then start to till that soil? Doing things that detoxify you are really good. Doing Epsom salt baths is an excellent thing to help detoxify, because it'll pull out a lot of the inflammation and things within your body, and it will also help clear your mind. Salt is very, very clearing, purifying, and protecting, not only for your body, but for your home and for your mind as well. So having a bath in that, or even the Himalayan salts. A lot of people now are starting to use the Himalayan salts instead of Epsom salt. So if you're in the local area, I know you can get wonderful Himalayan salt that works fabulous in the bath at the Flint Farmers Market. So you can find a lot of local sources as a wonderful side note. I was just going to mention for any of the things that we mentioned, because whenever you support people locally, it really adds and helps with your community. And those are things that your mind will turn to as you go into the darker side of the moon too. It draws away from the big picture of the whole world, and it starts to shrink that universe just a little bit, very slowly, very gradually. Just as the moon is turning into her shadow, so can your focus, so can your vision. It goes into that shadowy aspect. So doing the Epsom salt baths or the Himalayan salt baths, adding essential oils to that can help a lot, especially any types of detoxifying oils is really a good thing. Any oils that will help you release, or oils that will help draw your mind into the unconscious as well. Frankincense is a wonderful oil to add in. You can also add it in, just put it on the soles of your feet when you get out of the bath. Your pores in your skin will be more open after a bath. So if you put a few drops with the carrier oil on the soles of your feet, that's the best way typically to get the oils to absorb up through your whole body. And then that also is adding them in at the origin chakra. That's the chakra that goes beyond space and beyond time. So it really is clearing, pulling you out of all of these elements that we're so used to on Earth, and it's pulling you back to the origin, which will help you get into that new moon energy that we're going towards as well. Some of the other things that you can do are to do forward bends. It's a yoga exercise where you just kind of fold yourself in half. And when you think about that, it's like you're going inward. You're using a yoga pose, an asana, to move forward, to move inward. And you're physically helping to turn your brain into knowing that it's time to go forward, to move inward. So if you start your morning or even ending your evening with doing those forward folds where you just drop your head down and put your head to your knees, reach your hands down to your feet, and allow yourself to hang in that forward pose. You can do that while you're standing or while you're sitting. Have your legs out in front of you and just fold forward into that pose. It's a wonderful way to turn inward and just allow your mind to draw within. You can do any types of things, where exercises or asanas where you're moving yourself forward. Luna poses with yoga. Those are wonderful ways to draw in that moon energy as well. Also, anything that works on detoxifying yourself, including different teas. That's a wonderful thing to use as well. And then it's a really big energy with dissolving barriers. So if you feel like there's an aspect in your life where you have barriers and you're just not quite getting through these blocks, you're just not sure how to move past it, how to break down those walls, and how to get into the next phase, this is the time to focus on it. This is the time to work on it. This is the time to do it. And whether it's a long-standing block that you may have felt like you've had for years, or it could just be a block within a certain project and you're not sure how to get past it. This is even true during the Mercury retrograde, where people sometimes feel like they have a lot of blocks. This is the moon phase to harness that energy and just move right on through those blocks. You can start it by just doing those forward bends, doing those yoga poses and detoxifying yourself and allowing your mind to go inward and figuring out, where do those blocks come from? How can you meditate to maybe clear those blocks, even visualizing a block within your head, asking yourself, what shape does this block look like? What color is this block? And then beginning to have a light come in during your meditation and have that light shine on that block and see it getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The moon is working with you during this phase. Sunday is a fantastic time to work on this energy. And Nidra yoga is wonderful as well. Nidra yoga is night yoga, relaxing yoga. It's a very gentle form of yoga. Sometimes it's done in the dark as well. So that type of yoga really works well because you're moving into that dark energy. You're really focusing, harnessing that energy, flowing with it. Don't fight the current. Don't try to go out publicly. Don't try to claim the light. Don't try to build more right now. See what you need to clear. See how you need to go inward. Clear those blocks. Make sure your path is cleared. Make sure that soil is tilled and turned so that when you move forward within just a few days, it's not going to be long, you'll be moving forward again. Sometimes during this phase, people will start to feel like a project was moving forward really well, and all of a sudden there's a block. So flow with it. Instead of trying to push and, muscle your way through it, instead of that, just go inward. Find a softer way to reevaluate. If you're working on something business-wise and you're feeling like suddenly you've got these blocks at this phase, then maybe it's time to reevaluate your project. Look over all of those fine details and make sure nothing is amiss. You might find something where there's, something that's just a little bit amiss and you need to clear up that block, and then you'll find it to start flowing very smoothly again as we get back into the new moon. As you're preparing that soil and getting ready to plant seeds, that project will move forward again. So just take time, be patient with yourself. There's also a mudra that I felt I divined that seems to work really well for this too. You can look up different mudras for a lot of different purposes, but the one that came to me while I was meditating for this service, it's similar to the moon mudra. A moon mudra, you're basically a full moon mudra. You hold your thumb and your index finger together, and then you have your other hand up like this, similar to the blessing hand. Well, what I was feeling that really works well for the last quarter moon mudra is you actually just very gently, you have your thumb resting inside each hand, perhaps touching the middle finger. The biggest key is having your thumb relaxing in it, because this is a relaxing, a restorative time for the mudras. And then you rest your right hand on top of the left hand, and you're creating that, it almost looks like that yoke of this type of moon. You're creating that last quarter. You have that slight crescent down here, and you also have that protective layer on top. The right hand is the hand that is a giving hand, and the left hand is your receiving hand. So you're also releasing and you're receiving. So that's why it's important to have that right hand on top. And you just allow yourself to go into meditation while holding that pose. It will be very restorative, and it can help you harness and draw in the energy of this moon phase. So just some other tips for that. If you are doing meditation or massage or any type of healing treatments, that can be very effective at this time of year, or this time of the moon phase, so that you can really harness in on all of that detoxifying, all of that releasing, tilling the soil, getting yourself prepped, going into the unconscious, the subconscious, the deep shadow self, all of those deep, deep, deep issues. This is the time to face them. If you have issues, whether it's deep from childhood, or it could be past life issues, or it could be karmic issues, all of those, this is the time to address those issues, is during the last quarter moon. And it's primarily releasing from that waning gibbous to the last quarter, and then from the last quarter to the waning crescent is where we really focus on going deeper into that unconscious, deeper into the shadow self. So we're right in between both of those. So depending on what's going on in your life right now, that's where you need to have that focus, whether it's a little more with the releasing or it might be a little more with that deep unconscious work. So whichever works for you, definitely just learn to flow with it, learn to enjoy it. I know personally I'm very excited because next week is when I will be out of town receiving the Holy Fire 2 Karuna Reiki class. So I'm really looking forward to getting attuned to that and receiving that Reiju. And the fact that it happens with the new moon really holds a lot of meaning, because when you're in that new moon phase, that's that deepest part where you're really internal, you're really open to the universe. It's like you can be just you and the universe, just as one. It's a perfect time to allow those energies to come through. You can utilize that in your own life, whether you're interested in taking a Reiki class or if you're just interested in receiving a Reiki treatment or any other type of detoxifying, healing treatments. Perfect, wonderful time to do it during that new moon energy, because you can just cocoon right within yourself and allow that healing to go in. If you want to work on any of those unconscious or subconscious or deep issues, it's a great time to do that. So with that, I hope you had a wonderful week. I will look forward to talking to you next week. Next week we're actually talking about the new moon, because obviously the moon goes in 28 days, so that means there is 7 days between the last quarter moon and the new moon. Later on in the year, we're going to be talking about the waning crescent as well. So we're going to hit all 8 of the moon phases throughout this year. I look forward to seeing you next week with the new moon. And please, if you haven't already, like our video, hit the share button, subscribe to us on YouTube, and we love any feedback you have as well. So thank you and have a great week.